So let us continue to talk about what is collaborative filtering, 协同过滤法. So what is a collaborative filtering? So it uses the information for the customers to customers. So we use one methodology we call user similarity metric to see what is the familiar product for each for each customer, and if they are similar, they are the behavior for their purchase product are the same, so we can recommendation some items for their customers. So we use the users to use collaborative filtering. In the second methodology I'm going to talk about is item to item collaborative filtering. So for the first one, we convert the most familiar customer group. So the same group, the customer with the same group, they may have the similar taste for the product. So we can make the recommendation for the rest of the customer in the same group. So we view the products they frequently buy. And then it's easy for us to recommend them to some customers to make the promotions to the same group members. Okay, so for our second methodology, we call item collaborative filtering. So with this method, we try to find out the product group. So the first thing is to find the customer group with the same behavior. And then for the second one, we try to find out the product with the same group. So we call item similarity metric. That is the most similar to the current browsed product. So they have the same, maybe have the same function, so they may have the same buyers. So recommend the same, the series, the group product to the dedicated customers. Okay, so you guys, we have generated the user item metric, right? So in the last section, we have talked about the user item metric with the pivot table function. So it's easy for you guys to generate the users with the the items, right? It's a very big metric. So we call user item metric. Okay, so with the user collaborative filtering, so we try to find out these two guys, these two customers are familiar, right? If this guy on the left hand side, on the right hand side, he bought 1, 2, 3 items, and they have the same behavior by these two CD, and then we recommend the third one to the left hand side customers. So we call user similarities. Okay, so later I will teach you how to generate the metric for user similarity. So you will see there are all users in the index column, also in the columns, right? We replace with the items. So we will generate user similarity matrix 相似度的。Okay, so for the item-to-item collaborative filtering, later I will talk about. Okay, so here we'll create the item-to-item metric. So there are 3 statistics to calculate similarities, but here for the source code we use cosine similarities, 余弦相似度. So this cosine similarity is the most worldwide used method for our collaborative filtering marketing. So maybe you have used the cosine in your high school. So the angle for the 2 customers for the cosine, if they are close, the angle is smaller. So these 2 guys are similar. If the angle for the cosine is much bigger than much bigger than 90 degrees, so these 2 guys are not too much similarities. So only depend on the degree for the angle. Okay. Okay, it's time for us to calculate the user-to-user similarity matrix. We use the function which is provided by scikit-learn metric pairwise, this package, and we import cosine similarity, this function, this package for use. Okay, so we use the function which is the same as the method we call cosine similarity function, and we calculate with we just created before. So we calculate with the customer item metric with cosine similarities, and then with this function it's easy for us to generate user similarity metric like this one, and we only show the first 5 rows for the matrix. Okay, so you can see here is a user-to-user metric, and you can see all the content for this matrix. So the dimension for user similarity metric is 4,339 cross 4,339. So they are customer to customers, right? With the same dimensions. And we would like to change the index by their customer ID. So we use this function to generate the customer's ID to customer ID. Okay, for the customers, the similarity for their own, because for themselves, the similarity is 1, 自己对自己, okay? So it compared to itself, the similarity is the maximum 1. Okay, so here you may see different similarity value for each customers. So okay, so it's very easy for us to just use the cosine similarity function to calculate the customer item metric, and it will automatically generate the user to user similarity metric for us. Okay, so here you can find the similarity for each customers. For the value is much higher, it means they are close similarity to these customers. Okay, so here I have some conclusion for this user to user similarity metric. So you have to take a look at for my descriptions. So you will realize the function for user to user similarity metrics. Okay, it's time for us to make a recommendation to the right persons. So for the example for the source code, we try to find out the customers who are similar to the customers 1, 2, 3, 50. So who are the most similarity to the customer 1, 2, 3, 50, and sort with the range, the ranking for each customers. Okay, so we just filter with, we just created the user similarity metric, right? And we want to filter with this guy. 1, 2, 3, 50. This one. And we sort value, and we use ascending as false. So it will range from the biggest one to the smallest one. Okay, so you can find for itself it's the same, right? Okay, so you may find this one. 1, 2, 3, 5, 50 with this one. 1, 2, 3, 50 this one. So we retrieve this column and we sort with the similarity value. So here we to print out, to get up the top 10, okay, the top 10 for the sort result. So here shows the most similarities customers with 1, 2, 3, 50, these customers. So who are the most similarity with 1, 2, 3, 50? The customer is this one. 1, 7, 9, 35. These customers with the highest cosine similarities with the customers we want to discuss. The first one. And this one is the second one. And there are third, fourth, fifth. So we list the top 10 for the customers are related, are familiar with our customers 1, 2, 3, 50s. Okay, since we know these two customers are familiar, 是相似的, right? So we want to sell, to make a recommendation for this guy, which this guy has buy, and 17930 he didn't buy the product. So we can have these promotions with the collaborative filtering marketing, right? Okay, so here we can get the product for customers 1, 2, 3, 50 to get the product he buys. Okay, and you may find the product are here, the product ID, and we use this function to get the index for the customer A, the item bought by 8. So for the 1, 2, 3, 50, he bought these items. And with the same function, we get the list for 17935, this customer. What did he buy? What did he bought in the past? So here is the items he buy by customer B. And then we use the minus, right? So the customer bought by A minus customer bought by B. So it will shows the items we have to recommend to B. So we get the list of the items, the stock code, and then we select with their descriptions, so we know the names for the items. We can recommendation to our customer B. Okay, so it's easy for our to make the customer's ID with the different solutions. Okay, so it's a process for the user to use recommendations. Okay, so for the last video, I will talk about the same process, but to do the process for item collaborative filter.